Your Majesty. Perimeter is secure. Night watch rotated at the 8th bell. Full complement on the outer walls. Half rotation on the inner corridors. I've reassigned Aldrich to the east gate because Brennan's shoulder still isn't right from last week's drill and, well, I don't trust him to hold a post for 6 hours if something actually happens. He argues, but, well, he argues about everything. I'll handle it. Yes, kitchen staff cleared out an hour ago. Servants' passage is locked. I checked it myself. I always check it myself. You know that. Yes, Your Majesty. The delegation from Velmore left this afternoon. Finally. I supervised their escort to the border road personally. Count Aldrin sends his regards and hopes for, and I'm quoting directly here, continued warmth between our great houses. I'm sure he does. That man smiled so much during dinner last night, I thought his face was gonna split open. I don't trust him. I've never trusted him. I've told you that. But that's not my concern. Diplomacy is above my station. I just make sure the people smiling at you aren't holding anything sharp. What else? The armory inventory is done. We're short on crossbow bolts again. I've submitted the requisition. The training yard needs resurfacing on the south end. The flagstones are cracking and someone's gonna break an ankle. Before you ask, I've submitted that too. Oh, and the stray cat that's been living under the west courtyard bench had kittens. 4 of them. I know that's not a security matter, but you're going to ask me about them anyways, so 4 kittens. They're fine. The orange one is the loudest. There. That's my report. Well, that's everything. Unless you have questions, I'll take my usual post outside your door and... sit down? Are you asking me to sit down? You don't ask me to sit down. You've never... In 9 years of service, you've never once asked me to sit down during a report. I stand. That's what I do. I've always stood. I stand and I report, and you listen, and then I take my post. That's how this works. Yes, I know you said you needed to talk to me. That's another thing you never said before, either. I mean, you say things like, report to my chambers. You say things like, I'd like a briefing. You say, when you have a moment. You don't say, I need to talk to you. That's not how a king addresses his knight. That's how a person addresses a person. I know what this is about. I'm not stupid. I've known for weeks. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? You think I don't catalog every single change in your behavior, every shift in your routine, every... You gave away your father's ring to the court historian last Tuesday. You took it off your hand during a meeting and you slid it across the table like it was nothing. Like it was a paperweight you didn't need anymore. Oh, and let's not mention the, longer silences in council. Or the way you've been walking through the palace like you're memorizing it. Touching the walls. Lingering in doorways. You've been saying goodbye to this place for weeks. And you haven't even told anyone yet. Well, anyone except me, apparently. Because you asked me to sit down. And I assume the reason for that is so... Yes, of course, I'll sit. But I do want it on the record that this is highly irregular and I'm not comfortable with it. Right. Go ahead then. Say what you need to say. I'm listening. It's what I do. Abdication. Right. When? No, please, don't give me the preamble. Don't give me the reasons why. I'm not asking yet. I'm asking when. When is this happening? Is there a date? Have you already drafted the formal declaration, or is this still in the thinking about it stage? Because there is a rather significant difference between I'm considering stepping down and I've already written the speech. And I'd like to know which one I'm dealing with right now. That's 3 weeks from now. End of this month. You're telling me you've been planning this for how long? How long have you been sitting on this? You've been sitting across from me in this room for months, giving me nightly briefings and listening to me talk about crossbow bolt requisitions and cracked flagstones and stray cats, while you were planning to dismantle everything. And you didn't think to mention it? At any point? Between the perimeter reports and the armory inventories, you couldn't find 30 seconds to say, oh, by the way, I'm abandoning the throne. I'm sorry. That was... Allow me to rephrase that. And who would be the successor? I surely hope you have one. Your cousin. Well, she's competent. She's politically literate. She's got the temperament for it. Well, more than you did, honestly, and I don't mean that as an insult. She actually enjoys council meetings. I've seen her take notes, voluntarily. That's borderline unhinged, but, it qualifies her. In that case, what is the transition structure? Are you planning on doing a formal abdication before the court or a private transfer of authority? Yes, because if it is public, I need to coordinate security for... I don't even know how many people that involves. Every noble house in the kingdom is going to want a seat in that room, half of them to pay their respects, and the other half to figure out how to exploit the power shift before the ink dries on your cousin's coronation. And the delegation from Velmore. Count Aldrin just left. He's going to hear about this on the road. You know that, right? Word travels faster than horses in this kingdom. He's gonna turn his carriage around so fast the wheels catch fire, and then he's gonna be back here within the week with a new set of smiles and a completely different agenda. I don't trust him now. I especially don't trust him during a succession. Have you, told the council? The full council, not just your inner circle. Which three? Oh, of course. The three who've been pushing for this. The three who have had concerns about the crown's direction for the last 2 years. Lord Maxwell, who hasn't agreed with a single decision you've made since your coronation. Lady Ashby, who's been positioning your cousin as a viable alternative since before your father died, to be honest. And Alderman Hale, who has the political instincts of a weather vane and will support whoever's winning because he has no principles. Forgive me. So, those are the 3 people you've trusted with this. Not your captain of the guard. Not the person who stands outside your door every night. The 3 people who've been quietly undermining you for years. Oh, of course they were supportive. I absolutely bet they were. I bet Lord Maxwell looked very somber and said something about, respecting your courage while, mentally redecorating the council chamber. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I spoke out of turn. Very well, Your Majesty. Please tell me the plan. The rest of it. Where do you go after? The north. Oh, yes, the family estate, the one that's been empty since your aunt passed. You're going to... Forgive me. You're going to live in a manor house in the middle of nowhere, alone, and, do what, exactly? Read? Garden, perhaps. Stare at the stars without anyone interrupting you? That's not... I didn't mean it like that. Yes, I'm aware you're tired. I'm aware this has been eating you alive for 3 years. You think I don't see it? The way you look at that throne like it's gonna swallow you? How your hands shake before council meetings when you think nobody's watching? But I'm always watching. That's my entire purpose. And I know why you want to leave. I understand it. Logically. Maybe even strategically. You're not wrong. You would be happier. The kingdom might even be better for it. Your cousin would be a fine queen. Possibly a great one. But, well, I couldn't help but notice you, haven't mentioned me once. Yes, I know. You've laid out the timeline, the successor, the transition plan, the estate in the north. You've accounted for the council, the noble houses, the delegation from Velmore, the political ramifications. You've thought about everything. But in all those months of planning, all those months you spent sitting across from me in this very room, you never once thought about what happens to me, to your captain of the guard. Did you? What is my role in this plan? Where do I go? You've got a whole map drawn out. Show me where I am on it. Released. I'd see. You'd release me. From my oath, like it's, like I'm a horse you're turning out to pasture. Thank you for your service, here's your freedom, off you go. Do you know what that oath is? Do you understand what I swore? I didn't swear to a chair. I didn't swear to a piece of metal on your head. I swore to. I stood in that throne room when I was 16 years old and borrowed armor that didn't fit properly because they didn't make ceremonial plate for girls my size, and I put my knee on the stone and I said the words. Every word. I memorized them the night before. I practiced them in the mirror until my voice didn't shake because I needed to get them right. For you. And now you're going to, release me. 3 weeks from now. Between the transition briefings and the packing. Were you going to tell me at all? if you didn't, ask me to sit down tonight, if you just gone through with it, would I have found out when your cousin's guard captain showed up to take my post? Don't answer that. I don't think I want to know. You mentioned the estate has a garden. The one in the north. The one you plan on retiring to. Does it have stars? Can you see them out there? Away from the city lights? Then, who's gonna stand outside while you look at them? You know what? No, you you don't get to just, no. You want to abdicate? Fine, that's your right. You're the king, after all. For 3 more weeks, apparently. You can do whatever you want. I can't stop you. I've never been able to stop you from doing anything. You're the most quietly stubborn person I've ever met. And I once watched a mule refuse to cross a bridge for 6 hours, so that's saying something. But you don't get to sit there and say, released from your oath, like that oath is a formality, a piece of paper, something you can fold up and slide across the table like your father's ring. That oath is mine. I earned it. And you're going to sit there and listen to what it's cost me before you throw it away. I was 10 years old when they assigned me to you. 10. I didn't pick you. You know that. I was the leftover squire with the bad attitude who'd already gotten into 3 fights with boys twice her size, and the weapons master didn't know what to do with me. So they gave me the soft assignment. Guard the prince. The one who reads books and feeds stray cats. The other squires laughed. They said I was babysitting. I showed up to your chambers in full squire kit. Boots polished, belt straight, shoulders back. I'd practiced the salute in the hallway 4 times because I kept getting the fist placement wrong. Do you remember? I walked in and announced myself. Rank, assignment, station, like I'd been taught. And you were sitting on the floor, cross-legged, reading a book about stars. You had ink on your fingers and your hair was a mess, and you looked up at me like I'd interrupted something terribly important, and you said, yes. You said, what's your name? Not my rank, not my assignment. My name. Nobody in that entire palace had ever asked me my name. I was the squire, the girl, the one with the attitude. I had been in the royal service for 2 years, and not a single person, not the weapons master, not the knight commander, not any of the officers who drilled me every morning until my arms couldn't move, had ever asked me what my name was. Except for a 10-year-old boy sitting on the floor with ink on his fingers. That's who finally asked. I didn't answer. You probably don't remember. But I didn't answer for a long time. Remember, I just stood there at attention because I didn't know what to do with the question. It wasn't in the training. Nobody tells you what to do when the person you're assigned to protect treats you like a person. And for 3 days, I stood outside your door. The first 3 days of my assignment, mind you. No breaks except to relieve myself. I barely ate. I thought that's what knights did. I thought that's what dedication looked like. Suffering quietly so the person on the other side of the door could sleep safely. And I still don't know how. But you found out. You must have asked a servant, or maybe you just noticed I was wearing the same expression for 72 hours. And then you dragged a chair into the hallway. That big, heavy oak thing, you could barely move it. You were this scrawny kid pushing furniture down a corridor, making a horrible scraping sound on the stone. You put it next to my post and said, "Sit." Of course I said no. I mean, what else was I supposed to say? And then you started leaving plates of food by the door. Full meals. Things from the royal kitchen that a squire had no business eating. I didn't touch them. On the 4th day, You walked out of your chambers, sat down on the hallway floor next to my post, and said, you weren't going to your lessons until I ate something. You were 10. You had a geography exam. And you sat on a cold stone floor and you stared up at me with those stubborn, stupid, gentle eyes. And you... Yes. Yeah. You didn't move. You refused to. Of course I ate. I was so angry about it. I was so angry because nobody had ever... Because that's not what the person you're guarding is supposed to do. You weren't following the script. You're supposed to be the one I protect, not the other way around. That's not how this works. That's never been how this works with you. Oh, and remember the time where you asked me to teach you the sword? Yes. A few weeks into my assignment. You came to the training yard at dawn. At dawn, you, the boy who never woke up before the third bell unless someone physically removed him from his bed. You were standing there holding a wooden sword like it was a venomous snake, and you said, yes. Teach me. And then I asked why. Of course I remember. You said, because it's important to you. So I want to understand it. You didn't come to me because you wanted to fight. Because you wanted to be strong. Because it was important to me. Because you wanted to understand the thing that your knight cared about. Yeah, you were awful. You are still, to this day, the worst swordsman I have ever seen, and I have trained recruits who hold the blade backwards. Your footwork was, kindly put, non-existent. Your guard was a suggestion, at best. You telegraphed every swing so badly I could have blocked you while I was asleep. But for some reason, you just kept showing up. Every morning. You'd get knocked down, and you'd get up, and you'd say, what did I do wrong? How could you not be frustrated? Or embarrassed? You asked me, genuinely. Like I was the authority on something that mattered, and my answer was worth hearing. I stopped resenting the assignment after 2 weeks. I didn't admit that to myself for years. And then there was that night. You know which one. We've never talked about it. We don't ever dare talk about it. But you're about to end everything, so I think we can stop pretending it didn't happen. We were 14, weren't we? I heard a footstep. One footstep. That was wrong. And, you know, you learn the rhythm of a place when you stand in it long enough. Every creak in the floorboards, every guard rotation. But this was wrong. One too many steps in a corridor that should have been empty. No, of course I didn't go for help. There wasn't time. I went through the door. And he was already in your room, standing over your bed. You were asleep. He had a dagger. Coated. I could smell it. Poison. Something from the south. Probably sourced through the merchant quarter. I still had a training sword back then. Not even a real one. They hadn't issued me real steel yet, because I was 14. And the quartermaster said I wasn't ready. A training sword. Blunted edge. Practice weight. It was leaning against the wall outside your door because I'd been doing drills earlier that evening. You were there. You remember, right? I killed a grown man with it. A blunted blade doesn't cut clean. I want you to understand that. It doesn't. It's not quick. It's not a single stroke. It's... I don't need to describe it. You were there. You saw what was left. Yes, you did. I remember the sound. I was standing there with blood on my hands and my arms and in my hair, I think. And you were on the floor, getting sick and shaking. And all I could think was, he's alive. He's alive, and I need to clean this up before anyone sees, because if they see this, they'll take me off as detail. They'll re-sign me, and I can't leave him with someone else. That's what I thought. 14 years old, covered in a dead man's blood, and my first concern was being reassigned. I never did thank you for sitting with me while I washed my hands that night. In the servants' washroom, 3 a.m, and you sat on the floor and you didn't say a word. You didn't try to comfort me. You didn't tell me it was going to be okay. You just sat there, present, like that was enough. And, you know, it was enough. It was more than enough. Nobody in my life had ever just been there without wanting something from me, without needing me to perform or report or stand at attention, look smart, You just sat on the cold floor in your night clothes. And you stayed. So, that was the night I decided I'd die for you. Not because of the oath. I hadn't taken the oath yet. I was 14. I mean, I was, 2 years away from the formal ceremony? There was no legal obligation, no sacred vow, no duty binding me to you. But I decided anyway, sitting in that washroom, watching the water run red, with you on the floor beside me in silence. That had nothing to do with the oath. And I think you know that. Do you want more? I have more. I have 9 years of more. The scar on my collarbone. The one you found 3 days late because I hid it from you. Training accident. Older Knight caught me with the lance during mounted drills. I should have gone to the healers. I didn't. Because the healers would have benched me for 2 weeks, and 2 weeks away from your door was 2 weeks someone else would be standing there, and I didn't trust anyone else to hear the wrong footstep. I still remember how angry you got. And it was that special kind of anger. You know, the quiet anger that you do, the kind that doesn't raise its voice, the kind that just looks at you with those disappointed, worried eyes until you feel worse than if someone had screamed at you for an hour. The banquet. You were 19. Well, we were both 19. The visiting delegation. The server with the wrong hands. Too tense. Too practiced. I read his body before he moved. Intercepted. The blade caught my side just below the ribs. I felt it go in, and I felt it come out. And I made a decision in that moment that I would not go down. And I didn't go down. Did I? I finished him. Turned to the room. Told everyone to remain seated. Smiled, even. I think I smiled because I knew every diplomat in that room was watching. And I knew that the king's guard crumbling on the banquet hall floor would cause a political incident that would take months to untangle. And I wasn't going to let that happen. Not with you. Not to you. Four courses, actually. Yes, I stood through 4 more courses. The soup, the fish, the roast, the dessert. I stood behind your chair, and I bled quietly into the lining of my dress armor, and I counted the courses, because counting gave me something to focus on, besides the fact that I was fairly sure I was dying. But I wasn't. It missed the vital organs. Of course, I didn't know that at the time. I stood there for 2 hours thinking I might be bleeding out, and I chose to keep standing because the alternative was making your evening worse. You didn't speak to me for, 2 days. And when you finally did, when you finally started talking to me again, you said, God. made me feel like my chest was caving in. How could you say that to me? You're not allowed to die for me? That is my entire purpose, my entire reason to live. Do you remember what I said after? Yes. Yes, I said, with respect to your majesty, that's not your decision. That's the oath. That's what it's cost. That's what you're releasing me from. A training sword at 14, a hidden scar at 15, a poisoned blade at 19. Every night I've stood outside your door. Every footstep I've cataloged. Every hallway I've memorized. Every face I've studied across every council table to make sure no one in that room was a threat to you. Nine years. Almost 10. Half my life. The important half. The only half that matters. And you're sitting there telling me it's over in 3 weeks? No, I'm giving a report. This is a report. I'm reporting my service record to my king before he decides it is no longer relevant. That's all this is. I'm fine. I'm fine. I just need a moment. Stop that. Stop looking at me like you're worried about me. I'm not the one who needs worrying about. I'm your knight. I worry about you. That's the direction this goes. It's never gone the other way, and I don't need it to start now. Not tonight. So, what happens to me? Yes, I know I already asked that. I'm asking again. Because you said released from your oath. And I need you to explain to me in detail, with the same thoroughness you used to plan your abdication, what that actually looks like. Walk me through it, please. Step by step. The way I walk you through security briefings. Right. So I report to the throne room. Lavinia is sitting in your chair. There's a new captain of the guard, whoever she appoints. Probably Kelvin, if he plays his cards right. Maybe Commander Westfall, if the council pushes for seniority. I kneel. Someone reads the dissolution. The oath I swore at 16 is formally revoked. I stand up. Then what? What do I do then? Where do I go? Do I take a new assignment? Do I swear to Lavinia? Do I stand outside her door and memorize her hallways and catalog her council members and learn which floorboards creak at night? Do I learn how she takes her tea? Do I learn which books she reads before bed? Do I learn the sound of her breathing through the door so I know the difference between a peaceful night and a nightmare? Because I know yours. I know all of yours. I know that you drink peppermint tea when you can't sleep, and that you read histories, never fiction, because fiction makes your mind race and you need something dry to settle it. I know you pace when you're anxious. 11 steps to the window, 11 steps to the door, 4 seconds of stillness. I've counted. I know that when the nightmares are bad, you stop pacing and go completely silent, and that silence is worse than any sound you could make because it means you've curled into yourself and you're trying to ride it out alone. I know that because I have spent 9 years on the other side of your door with my hand pressed to the wood waiting for the silence to end. Of course he didn't know that. I never opened the door. Protocol says I don't enter the king's chambers without explicit permission or an identified threat. And a nightmare isn't a threat. Not technically. Not in any manual I've ever read. So I stood there. Every time. Hand on the door. Waiting for you to be okay. And when the silence broke, when I heard you breathe again, or go to bed, or get up to pace, I'd step back, resume my post. And in the morning, I'd greet you like nothing happened. And you'd greet me like nothing happened. And we'd both pretend that the dark circles under your eyes were from reading too late. I did that for 3 years. Since the banquet. So you tell me, Your Majesty. You tell me what knight is going to do that for Lavinia. What soldier is going to press their hand to her door at 3 a.m. because the silence is too long? Who's going to count her pacing? Who's going to know that 11 steps means the window, 11 steps back to the door, 4 seconds of nothing? Nobody. Because that's not duty. That was never duty. A knight doesn't memorize the sound of someone's breathing through oak. That's not in any oath I've ever heard. Did I ever tell you what they used to call me? When I was young. In the palace, the other knights, the squires, the court, they had a name for me, you know. The Prince's Shadow. Of course they meant it as an insult. At first. A little girl trailing after a boy who'd rather read than rule. Did you know? They said I was wasted on you. Said I had real talent, combat instincts, natural speed, the kind of aggression you can't teach. And it was all being spent on a prince who didn't need protecting because he wasn't important enough for anyone to bother hurting. Well, that changed after the night with the training sword, didn't it? After the assassination. Yes, people stopped laughing. They stopped calling it babysitting. But the name stuck. The Prince's Shadow. And, you know, I took it. I held on to it. I wore it like it was stitched into my armor because it was the only title that mattered to me. Not knight, not sir, Not captain or commander or any other rank they could ever pin on me. The prince's shadow. That was mine. And I was so proud of it, you know, because it meant I was yours. Not like not like I mean that I was attached to you officially, permanently. That wherever you went, I went. That my name in every record and every roster and every duty log in this palace appeared next to yours. Paired. Linked. It meant nobody could reassign me without reassigning you. Nobody could transfer me or promote me into a different post without breaking the assignment. I was locked in. Permanently. And I wanted to be locked in. I wanted the excuse to be near you every day, every night. Standing 2 steps behind you in every room because protocol said that's where the knight stands, and protocol was the only reason I was allowed to be that close. The only reason that didn't require an explanation. And you know, people would ask, of course, yes they would, why are you always with him? And I had an answer. I'm his knight, it's my duty, it's my oath. Clean. Simple. I mean, who questions duty, right? Nobody looks at a knight standing behind her king and thinks there's something more to it. They just see the armor and the oath, and they nod, and they move on. What am I? What am I without that? If you take away the oath, if you take away the title, the post, the assignment, if there's no door to stand outside of, no hallway to memorize, no footsteps to count, if the prince's shadow doesn't mean anything anymore because there is no prince, just a man in an empty mansion in the north who used to wear a crown. What am I? I'm not asking you as a knight. I'm not asking you as a soldier. I'm asking you as me. The person whose name you asked for when we were 10. What happens to me? Because I've never been anything else. I went from squire to knight to your captain of the guard, and there has never been a version of me that exists outside of that. I don't have hobbies. I don't have friends, lovers. I have colleagues I respect and soldiers I've trained and a professional network of people who know me exclusively as the woman who guards the king. My entire life is structured around you. My sleep schedule is built around your sleep schedule. I eat when you eat. I wake when you wake. When you go to the garden at night, I go to the garden at night. When you stay up reading, I stand outside your door and listen to pages turn, and I know the pace of your reading by the intervals between each one. Histories are slow. Star charts are fast. You linger on maps. No, it's not. You're right, it's not normal. I know. I've known for a long time that it's not normal. A knight shouldn't know how fast her king turns pages. A knight shouldn't be able to identify her king's footsteps from 3 corridors away. A knight shouldn't feel her chest tighten when the rotation comes and someone else takes the post outside his door for 6 hours because it's regulation and she technically needs to sleep. But I do. I feel that. Every time. I lie in my quarters during the off-rotation, and I stare at the ceiling, and I think about who's standing at your door, and whether they're listening carefully enough, and whether they'd hear the wrong footsteps the way I would. And I know they wouldn't. Nobody listens the way I do. Nobody could. So when you say released from your oath, you're not releasing me from a contract. You're not filing paperwork. You're not letting a soldier go. You're removing the only reason I have to exist in your life. And then you're leaving to the north, to your garden and your stars and your quiet little life that you've been dreaming about for months. Without me. I think you should know. That's the first time in 9 years of service that I've ever used the word me in a report. It's always the knight, your guard, this soldier. Never me. That's training, that's discipline. You erase yourself from the language so the duty stays clean. So it's never personal. I'm not sure I can keep it clean tonight. I'm sorry. I know that's unprofessional. I don't know how to be unprofessional. I don't have practice at this. You'll have to be patient with me. Say something. You're so quiet. Not that that's unusual for you. You've always been the quiet one. I talk in reports and you listen, and that's our rhythm. But right now, your quiet feels different. It feels like you're being careful with me. Like I'm something fragile. I'm not fragile. You should know. I've taken a blade to the ribs and stood through a 6-course dinner. I'm not fragile. I'm sitting in your chambers, in a chair, instead of at my post, using the word me for the first time in almost a decade. So maybe I am a little fragile. tonight. Don't get used to it. I need to tell you something. And I need you to not interrupt me. Because if you interrupt me, I will lose my nerve, and I will stand up and walk out that door and resume my post, and we will never speak of this again. I will bury it so deep that I'll convince myself it never happened. I'm very good at that. I've had years of practice. So just stay quiet. Please. The way you did on the washroom floor when we were 14. Just be here. That's all I ask. Right. The oath is a lie. Allow me to clarify. Not the oath itself. The oath is real. I swore it. I meant it. I've bled for it. Every word I spoke in that throne room at 16, I meant with everything I had. But the reason I swore it, the reason I practiced the words in the mirror until my voice didn't shake, that's the lie. Or not a lie, an admission. A very large, very deliberate omission that I've been maintaining for almost a decade. I told you I decided to die for you the night I was 14, in the washroom, after the blood. I told you it had nothing to do with the oath because I hadn't sworn the oath yet. That's true. But I left something out. When I swore the oath 2 years ago, when I knelt on that stone floor in borrowed armor and said the words, I wasn't swearing to protect the crown. Yes, I know what the words say, okay? I know that's what the ceremony means. A knight swears to the title, not the person. The crown is eternal. The person wearing it is temporary. That's the whole point. That's why the oath transfers when the king dies and the successor takes the throne. The knight endures. The duty continues. I know all of that. I understood all of that at 16. I swore to you, anyway. Not the crown. Not the title. Not the institution of the monarchy or the continuation of the royal bloodline or the preservation of the realm. You. The boy who sat on the floor with ink on his fingers. The boy who dragged a chair into the hallway. The boy who showed up at dawn with a practice sword he could barely hold because the thing I cared about was worth understanding. The boy I took a dagger between the ribs for. That's who I knelt for. And every day since, when I stand at your door and tell myself it's duty. When I catalog threats and memorize hallways and count footsteps and press my hand to the wood during your nightmares, I'm not fulfilling an oath to the crown. I'm fulfilling a promise I made to myself at 14 years old in a washroom at 3 in the morning. The oath was just permission. It was the key that let me stay. As long as I was sworn, nobody could question why I was there. Nobody could ask why the night was always so close, why she never requested a transfer, why she turned down every promotion that would have moved her to a different post, why she... You didn't know that either, did you? Three times. Yes. The Knight Commander recommended me for the rank of captain twice, and Commander Westfall put my name forward for the Strategic Division once. The Strategic Division, that's the highest operational post a knight can hold without a noble title. It's what I trained for. It's what every squire in that palace dreams of. But I said no. 3 times. I gave different reasons each time. I'm not ready. The timing isn't right. I feel my skills are best utilized in my current assignment. Professional. Believable. But the real reason was the same every time. The promotion would have moved me away from your door. That's it. That's the whole calculation. Everything I've accomplished, every commendation I've earned, every rung on the ladder I could have climbed, I traded all of it for a hallway, the door, and the sound of your breathing on the other side. Do you understand what I'm telling you? I am not a knight who happens to be assigned to you. I am a person who used the oath as an excuse to never leave your side. Every scar, every sleepless night, every blade I've taken. I told myself it was duty. I wrote it in my reports as duty. I filed it away in the language of service because service was safe. Service was explainable. Service didn't require me to look at what was underneath. And I have been hiding behind that oath for 9 years, give or take a few months. And you are about to take it from me. And of course I'm terrified. Not because I'm losing my rank. Not because I'm losing my post or my title or my purpose, because without the oath, I don't have a reason to be near you. and without a reason. I have to face the truth. Which is... that I never needed one. I was gonna take this to my grave, you know. That was my plan. My actual, operational, fully committed plan. I was going to stand outside your door for the rest of my life and never say a word. About why. You'd rule, I'd guard, you'd grow old on that throne, and I'd grow old outside your door, and when one of us died first, probably me because that's the job, the other would never have to know. It's a good plan, right? It was clean, sustainable. It required absolutely no vulnerabilities whatsoever, and I was very comfortable with it. And then you decided to abdicate and ruined everything. Are you laughing right now? I'm being serious. You ruined my plan. My airtight lifelong plan to never confront a single genuine emotion destroyed in one evening because you decided you don't want to be the king anymore. This is your fault? I want that on record. I was perfectly fine repressing everything indefinitely, and you and your gentle eyes and your quiet courage and your stars and your stupid need to always do what you think is right, even when it's destroying me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to raise my voice. Yes, I know. You'd be happier. I know that. I've watched you suffocate in that chair for 3 years. I've watched the council talk over you and the nobles circle you and the crown press down on you until you couldn't breathe. I've memorized the exact way your shoulders drop when you think nobody's watching. This tiny collapse, barely visible, like you're caving in on yourself for just a second before you pull it back together and sit up straight and pretend you're fine. I see it every time. And every time I want to close the door. I want to cross the room. I want to walk right past protocol and propriety and every rule that's ever kept me 2 steps behind you. And I want to... I don't know. I don't know what I do. I've never let myself think that far. I just know I want to be closer than 2 steps. And you deserve to be free. You deserve the manor in the north and the garden and the stars without a crown weighing you down while you look at them. You deserve to breathe. I know that. And I'm asking you to keep suffocating. That's what this is. Stripped of every excuse, every justification, every layer of duty and service. That's what I'm asking. Stay in a life that's killing you. Because the alternative kills me. And I know what that makes me. I know exactly what kind of person stands in front of someone they care about and says, your misery is more convenient for me than your happiness. Yes. Yes, absolutely. It's monstrous. Trust me, I know. It's selfish. I know that if I were a better person, a braver person, the kind of person you seem to think I am, I'd say, go, be free. I'll be fine. But I'm not brave. That's such an odd thing for Captain of the Guard to say, isn't it? I've never been brave. I'm not the fearless knight who charges in first. I'm the girl who was so scared of her own feelings that she hid behind an oath for 9 years and called it duty. I'm the woman who memorized the sound of page turning through a door because it was the closest she could get without admitting why she wanted to get close. I'm the soldier who turned down 3 promotions. 3! Because a hallway and a door mattered more than a career. And right now, I'm the person sitting in your chambers, in a chair I was never supposed to sit in, telling you that I would rather you spend the rest of your life in a throne you hate than spend one day of mine without you in it. Listen to me. Wow. That's the most selfish thing anyone has ever said in this palace. And I'm including Lord Merrick, which is really saying something. I know. Trust me. I know. Okay. I'm done. I said it. It's out. Whatever that was, I'm done with it. Give me a second. I just need to put myself back together. You can't just... A person can't just say all of that and then immediately function. I need a second. Okay. Here's where we are. I have told you more in the last hour than I have told anyone in my entire life. Combined. I've told you things I didn't even tell myself until all the words were already out of my mouth. Half of what I just said, I'm only now processing. So if my voice is doing something strange, that's why. I'll manage. I'm good at managing. You're going to make a decision. Tonight. Not in 3 weeks. Not after you've had time to think about it. Not after you've consulted Lord Merrick and Lady Ashby and whoever else you've led into this before your own Captain of the Guard. Tonight. In this room. With me sitting in front of you. Because I'm not going to walk out that door and stand in that hallway and spend 3 weeks waiting to be discarded. I won't do it. I won't. I've done a lot of things for you. I've bled for you and starved for you and lied to myself for you and stood through a 6-course dinner with a hole in my side for you. But I will not stand outside your door for 21 more nights knowing that each one is a countdown to the last. I believe I'm owed more than that. After everything, I am owed a decision made to my face. So, if you walk away from the throne, if you go through with this, I need you to understand what that means. Not for the kingdom, not for the council, not for Lavinia or the noble houses or the delegation from Velmore, for me. If you abdicate, I'm leaving. Not transferring, not reassigning. Leaving. I'll turn in my armor, my sword, my commission. I will ride out of this city the same day, and I will not come back. No, I'm not being dramatic. When have I ever been dramatic? I don't do dramatic. I do operational assessments, and I have assessed the situation very thoroughly, mind you, over many sleepless nights, and I have concluded that there is no version of this where I stay. I can't serve Lavinia. I know that sounds like pride, but it isn't. Lavinia is a fine ruler, and she'd be a fine queen, and she deserves a knight who is fully and completely devoted to her safety. I cannot be that knight. I would be standing at her door, listening for her breathing and hearing yours. I would be walking her hallways, counting her footsteps, and comparing them to yours. Every room I entered, I would be looking for you. Every silence, I would be measuring against the ones I memorized through your door. I would be a ghost, haunting a post that doesn't belong to me anymore. And believe it or not, ghosts make terrible nights. They're unreliable, distracted. Their attention is always somewhere else, always in a room they can't go back to, with a person they can't reach. I won't do that to your cousin. And I won't do that to myself. So, I leave. I ride north. Not to your estate, don't worry. I won't follow you like some lost dog. I'll go somewhere else. Somewhere that doesn't have a palace or a throne or a garden where someone once taught me constellations I didn't care about, and I learned them anyway because his voice was... somewhere else. I'll go somewhere else. And that'll be it. No letters. No visits. No words sent through mutual contacts. No checking in through the guilds or the military network. Clean. Complete. Because I can't do it in half measures. I told you that. I told you. I know exactly what kind of person I am. I'm The kind of person who memorizes the interval between page turns. I'm the kind of person who counts 11 steps to a window and then 11 steps to a door. I don't do things halfway. I don't do casual. I don't do, let's stay in touch. If I am near you in any capacity, I will fall back into it. I will find a new reason, a new excuse, a new oath to stand 2 steps behind you. I will rebuild every wall I just tore down tonight, and I will hide behind it for the rest of my life, and it will eat me alive, and I will let it. Because being near you and pretending is still better than being away from you and knowing. So, I can't be near you. If you leave, I have to leave further. That's the math. That's the only math that keeps me intact. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking you can stop me, talk me out of it. I mean, you're sitting there right now with that look, that patient, steady, gentle look, and you're already composing something in your head. I can see it right now. Something kind, something careful, something about how we can figure this out, how it doesn't have to be all or nothing, how I'm not thinking clearly because I'm emotional and I'll feel differently in the morning. I won't. I've spent 9 years thinking about this. Not actively. Not like a plan. More like a wound that you know is there, but you don't look at it because looking makes it real. But it's been there. This possibility. The idea that one day the oath wouldn't be enough. That one day the door would open and the person on the other side would say, I don't need you anymore. No, I know you didn't say I know you didn't say that. I know. You said abdication, not I don't need you. But it amounts to the same thing, doesn't it? The oath dissolves, the post disappears. The shadow is nothing left to follow. But if you stay, I will make it bearable. I swear it. And not on the oath. I don't trust the oath anymore. On something older. On a washroom floor at 3 a.m, or a chair dragged into the hallway. And yes, I know the crown is heavy. I know it's crushing you. I've watched it crush you, and I've stood 2 steps behind you, and I've done nothing because protocol, because duty, because the oath says protect the king, and I didn't know how to protect you from the thing that was hurting you, when the thing that was hurting you was the crown itself. But I know now. I know, because you told me tonight. You told me what's breaking you. And that means I can fight it. That's what I do. That's what I've trained my entire life for. You points me at the thing that's trying to hurt you, and I deal with it. That's all I've ever been good at. The council, I'll handle them. Lord Merrick, Lady Ashby, every vulture in that chamber. You think I've just been standing behind your chair taking notes? I have files on them. I have 9 years of observations, every lie, every manipulation, every time they talked over you or dismissed you or tried to steer you into a decision that served them. I know who's trustworthy and who isn't. I know who fears you and who pities you and who underestimates you. I will stand. I will stand at your side in that council chamber. Not behind you, beside you. And I will make them listen. The weight of it, the loneliness of it. You won't carry that alone anymore. I'm not going to stand outside the door when you're hurting. I'm going to open it. Protocol can burn. The manual can burn. Every rule that says I'm supposed to be 2 steps behind you and silent, I'll break them. All of them. You want to go to the garden at night? I'll go with you. Not as your guard, as me. The person whose name you asked for. I'll sit in the grass with you, and you can talk about the stars, and I'll listen the way I've always listened, except this time I won't pretend it's duty. I won't pretend I'm scanning the perimeter. I'll just be there. With you. Because I want to be. You want to feed the stray cats in the courtyard? I'll carry the scraps. You want to read in your chambers until the candles burn down? I'll sit in that chair, this exact chair, and I will stay. Not outside the door. Inside the room. With you. I can't take the crown off your head. I can't make the throne comfortable. I can't undo 3 years of suffocation or giving you back the peace you're looking for. But I can make sure that when you sit in that chair and the weight presses down and your shoulders drop for that 1 second before you pull yourself back together, I can make sure that when you look up, I'm there. Not 2 steps behind you. Right there. Right in front of you. Close enough to reach. That's not an oath. That's a promise. And those are different. Oaths are to crowns. Promises are to people. So, there it is. The abdication. The manor in the north. The garden, the stars, the freedom. The life you've been dreaming about for months. That's behind one door. And behind the other door is this palace, this throne, this crown that you hate. The council, the politics, the weight of a kingdom you never asked for. But I'm behind that door too. Every morning, every night. Not as your shadow, Not as your captain of the guard. Just as the person who never needed an oath to stay. I know. I know it's not a fair choice. I know I'm putting myself on a scale against your happiness and asking you to pick. I know that's cruel. I know it's the most selfish thing I've ever done, and I've done a lot of selfish things tonight. But I told you. And I'd rather lose you completely than exist in the margins of a life that doesn't include me. Clean cut or no cut. That's all I know how to do. I'll wait. I've spent 9 years waiting outside your door. I can wait a little longer. Take your time. I'm right here. I've always been right here.